Hi, it's Mark Bossert from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Paul Toffoli. Paul's actually been voted the best realtor in Vancouver 4 years in a row, and he's going to talk to us today about foreclosures. So, how are you doing today, Paul?
I'm great. Thanks, Mark.
So, foreclosures, the good, the bad, and the
And
ugly. What is a foreclosure?
so foreclosures are properties that are being have been had. I'm going to start that again. Foreclosures are properties that are being sold. Usually, the sale is being conducted by the bank or the finance companies that's had a loan or a mortgage on the property that is not being paid back by the owner. The courts, the banks have applied to the courts for the right to sell the property to get their money back, and the courts have awarded the banks conduct of sale. So it's a long and complex process to get it to where the banks are actually selling it. But once it's there, that's where the real estate community gets involved.
So, how does that
Um,
process work in BC?
Okay, so we have quite I don't know if it's a unique process in BC, but it's a quite a straightforward process once you understand it. The trick is understanding it, and that's why it's good to be working with an expert who has been through the process multiple times. Um, Basically, so say that John Smith has a mortgage on their house. Something unfortunate has happened to John. He's lost his job, or he had too large a mortgage in the first place, and he can't pay the bank back. So he stops making his payments. The bank will notify him and ask for him to make the loan good. If after several months John hasn't come up with the money, the bank can then go to the courts and say to the judge, we need to get our money back. The only way we can see clear to this is through the sale of the property. The judge will make sure that all of the proper notifications have been given to the owner, to John Smith, and then will give the bank what's called conduct of sale. The bank then goes and hires a realtor because the courts require any foreclosures in BC to go through a public process to ensure that they're sold for the highest and best possible price. Um, then the bank will then hire a realtor who will do a market assessment, price the property what they think is fair market value, and it goes on the typical multiple listing system, just like any other property that would be sold through a realtor would be done. Um, Typically, these properties will have some challenges. They'll have maintenance issues, or they will have if the seller's not paying back the bank, he's probably not spending money on the roof or on decorating and things like that. So there can be some challenges. So that will be priced in. Foreclosures typically take a while to sell because the banks price them a little bit higher, maybe they want to make sure that they're being fair to the seller. And so lots of people will go through and view the properties. And at some point in time, one individual who will typically be using their own real estate agent that they've got a relationship with will put an offer in on the property. Once that offer is negotiated, you negotiate it with the bank's lawyers just like you would any other seller. It goes back and forth on price and all the normal subjects you would have, financing, inspection, if it's a strata, the strata documents, and so forth. And then once that offer has been accepted, then that buyer will do their due diligence. They'll put their financing in place, do all those things, and remove their subjects. The only difference between that and a normal sale is the bank is required to have a subject on there that is subject to court approval. So before the sale can be confirmed going forward, it will have to go back to court, and the judge or the master will then approve that sale or not. At that time in court, this is where the twist comes up. Any other buyer can walk into court with another offer. The first offer, the amount of that first offer is public knowledge because it's in the court documents. So if the property is priced at $450,000, there's an accepted offer for $400,000, that's going to be published. And then I can walk into court with another buyer, and we know that $400,000, so we're going to think, well, we're going to offer $410,000 or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you'll see 5 or 6 or 7 other buyers in court, so then maybe the winning bid is going to be above the original list price. Maybe it's going to be $460,000. Sometimes you'll see a difference. Case in point, I had a foreclosure that I dealt with about a month ago. It was a small condominium out in Maple Ridge. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, had been on the market for quite a while. Our client tied the property up at about $325,000, went through her whole due diligence, or no, it was even less than that, but went through her whole due diligence and got her financing in place, read the strata documents, all the things that she needed to do to remove her subjects. We got a court date. We were informed that we went to court. We were informed a couple of days before that it looked like there may be another offer coming in. So we prepared our client and said, okay, we need to be prepared. Think about where you may want to change your price and any other changes you may want to make to the contract in order to make your offer more attractive in court. When we showed up in court, there was indeed one other offer that was going to be presented to the courts. And so our client thought about it. We went through a process, and she wrote her price down, and we put an addendum to the contract in, handed it to the bank's lawyer to present. She collected the offer from the other party who was interested. And basically the way it works, they all go into a sealed envelope. Those sealed envelopes got handed up to the master during the process. The master, who was a lady judge at the time, opened up the documents and compared the two. The other offer was required to be even considered, could not have any subjects, and had to have a bank draft deposit in hand, typically in the amount of about 5% of the purchase price. When the master read the prices out, amazingly enough, our client had increased her price to $351,440. The other offer was $351,300. We got it by $140. It was the closest I'd ever seen. It was just our client was over the moon. So that's the kind of thing that can happen in court. I've been in other ones where there's been no other offers. So the first offer was the one we had. It just got accepted because it was fair market value. So it's a bit of a process to understand, but it can be a very rewarding one. And in both those cases, I do believe that our client paid a little bit under market value for the property that they bought.
So,
so that's
overall,
that's
overall, Paul, would you say it's a good idea?
yeah. So it really depends on your situation. It can be I think it can be a very good idea. I think that there's definitely can be a benefit to buying a foreclosure. I think there's an opportunity to purchase things under market value on foreclosures, but it's not for everyone. If you're the first person in and you can do your subject and have it subject to financing and put your financing in place, it's great because then it's just like any other purchase. However, if you don't like the idea of going to court and having somebody else be able to trump your price, and you need certainty around your purchasing process, then it may not be the best for you. On the other side of the coin, if you're a person who is financially in a situation where you can pull funds out of another property through a line of credit and you don't need that financing certainty, it can be kind of advantageous to go in as what they call the stalking horse, the person who goes into court when the first offer is in place and then tries to trump that offer with a subject-free offer. So each situation is unique. But it's really worth sitting down with an expert, someone like myself, who can walk you through the process and see whether it might be something that would work for you.
That's awesome, Paul. Great story too. I mean, that must have been pretty exciting when they read that out.
We will, for sure.
So we've been
Yeah.
talking with Paul Toffoli. You can reach Paul at his website, toffoli.ca, toffoli.ca, or you can call him at 604-629-6100. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks, Mark.